Hello there, fellow YouTubers, detectorists, adventure seekers, and whatnot. My name is Barry Bates, and this is the very first episode of Bearman Digs It. I just wanted to go over a few things first about myself. I have been metal detecting since I was like 2005 now. I should have really been recording all that for years because I've really found some awesome stuff over the years. Let me just tell you a little bit about why I got into detecting. First of all, I live in a Civil War rich area, so I'm really blessed with that. Basically, anywhere you dig around here, you're going to find, I almost always find at least one Civil War bullet no matter where I go, whether I'm looking for one or not, which is really cool. So much Civil War activity happened around this area. By the way, I'm in the panhandle of West Virginia, which used to be part of Virginia until midway through the war, the Civil War. My background for being interested in this stuff: when I was a kid, I grew up in Poolesville, Maryland, and we had a very old well in the backyard, like a hand pump well, but I think its origins were actually older than that. I didn't find out till later that it was probably part of a plantation that was in the area there, and I think it belonged to a doctor's house. There was a old mansion. I'll show you up here in that map there. I'll show you there in a minute. Was a drawing from 1862, and it showed troops in the area, what regiment they were, and all that stuff. Basically, Poolesville, Maryland, was like a small little hub of Civil War activity. There was encampments there the entire length of the war because the Potomac River was a major thoroughfare for going across to towards D.C. and everything. So it was picketed all the time. I don't think it ever changed hands. But it was under Union control most of the war, and there were some skirmishes and with some rebels and whatnot, Confederates, but it was always under the control of the Union Army. Without knowing any of that when I was a kid, we would like dig in the garden and stuff, planting stuff and whatnot, but we were always finding like old things in the garden, and I really had no idea what they were as a kid. My parents just told me they were old things. I think we were actually in a very old trash dump from probably the site of this mansion I'm going to show you, this doctor's house. And I think the well belonged to that. And when we moved there in 1973, there was still a standing barn there, probably 100 yards behind where the hand pump well was. But our garden was just a few feet from the well. But I would find all kinds of cool little intricate things and pieces of clay pipe and pieces of lead, and I think I found like an old 1800s ladies garter belt clip and stuff. Then I ended up finding a ring behind the well, and it was a little brass ring, has some little initials stippled into it. Actually, a funny story about digging in the garden. I fancied myself to be a little archaeologist, but once I started finding all kinds of crazy things in there, so I was like really methodical of how I was digging the dirt and stuff, and I would make out these just rectangular areas that I dug down and just kept digging and everything. I was like just gridding it out. But I ended up not even really thinking about it. I made these two long rectangular holes right beside each other. Later on, my mom, she was like really concerned because when you looked out her bedroom window and the bathroom there, you could see out across the yard into the garden, and it really looked like two graves. And she got my dad, into the bathroom one day, and she was like, honey, do those look like graves to you that he's digging? Do you think he's plotting to kill us? Of course, I love my parents. I had no intention of killing them whatsoever. It just happened to be that I had just dug these two holes that, unbeknownst to me, just absentmindedly look like graves. I think she had me fill them in pretty quick because I think they unnerved her. But I should have dug some more down the length of that garden because I don't think I got as deep as I did with those two. But I still found some good stuff with the metal detector later on. So early on, even as a teenager, I should have really just gotten a detector when I was younger. But it took me until I was like 35 years old before I finally decided, hey, I know there's some good stuff in this yard. I'm getting more into Civil War, and I know more about the history of this area with the Civil War now. I'm going to finally get me a good detector, so that's what I did. Not until 35 years of age, though. But once I did that, found all kinds of good stuff in the yard. My mom used to plant flowers and everything. She was a big flower lady, so she would pop out some Civil War lead here and there just from planting her flowers. She even had a friend in our neighborhood one time said she was just standing by a stop sign and looked down and found a Civil War bullet. Now, before that neighborhood was built up, and I'll show you on here on this map, there was a large encampment. Well, this shows a point in time where this certain regiment was all over where my neighborhood was. But when we first moved there, my mom said that she had run into an old timer who said basically that was all farm fields before they built any of that up. And he used to be able to just walk through the fields and pick up Civil War stuff just right off the ground. And it's also close to White's Ferry. And he wouldn't, that road going down to White's Ferry, you could just walk down along that road back in the day and pick up Civil War artifacts along the road. So it was just crazy Civil War rich area. I have got out of metal detecting for a little while, probably maybe around COVID time and stuff, just kind of killed some motivation with a lot of things in life. I'm sure you guys were the same way. Luckily, I have recently just started getting back on YouTube and watching other detectorists shows, which has really gotten me motivated again. Shout out to Bo, who is Aqua Sugar, probably the best metal detecting channel out there. That man has found insane stuff, and he does all kinds of river hunting and everything. And I've done a little bit of water detecting, and I want to get back into that as well, because there's a lot of untapped spots in the water, a lot of the Potomac River all around me, and some other outlets and stuff like that, and smaller creeks. So yeah, shout out to Aqua Sugar, and also Green Mountain Metal Detecting. That guy Brad Martin up in Vermont. I've just been binge watching all of his videos, all the awesome colonial stuff he finds. So big shout out to those two guys, because I've been binge watching the heck out of your stuff and gotten so much more motivated lately. Just wanted to show you some of the cool things I found over the years. And tomorrow I'm going to do my first video out in the field. I'm going to be at a friend's house who owns 400 acres, and basically everything should be on this property. It's an old tavern. I'm not going to say where it is, of course, but it's an old tavern where George Washington stayed at least twice, possibly 3 or 4 times. But we know for a fact he stayed there when he was surveying for Lord Fairfax when he was younger, and then when he was traveling again with his family, probably 10 or 15 years later or something like that. And supposedly there was Revolutionary Continental Army troops or militia that trained down in the fields near the creek by this property. I have detected this property 3 or 4 times now. I've never found anything colonial. Didn't really find anything old till recently, and the son told me that there might have been a couple of detectorists in and out of there over the years, but really it's never been pounded at all. But a lot of soil has been displaced, and the low-lying areas where there's been floods and stuff down along where that field is. But we're really there. I mean, there's so much property there. I mean, it's like 400 acres. So, and there's a creek that just goes all around the property, and a couple Civil War bullets have been found there, just eyeballing over the years. So we're really going to be pounding those areas soon. I've been there semi-recently with the heat just destroying me. I couldn't stand it for more than a few hours. But maybe if we get in that water in the creek, it'll be a bit cooler, and we'll find some cool stuff. But let me show you a couple things, and then that'll prime you for tomorrow's video when I get out there and hopefully find some good stuff. Hope you like this channel. Hope I do it well for the metal detecting community, and hopefully find some good stuff, and you'll be right there with me. Hopefully we'll have we always have a good time out there, but as long as we don't get skunked. It's always a very frustrating day when you just find canned slaw and junk and not even one good thing. I am good with just one Civil War bullet in a 7-hour period. I mean, I'm happy if I find just one Civil War bullet or a large cent, something cool like that. Coins are always, top of my list. Belt plates especially are top of my list. And again, that guy, Aqua Sugar, good gosh. I mean, he's got like several double plate days. It just blows my mind what that guy finds. But yeah, let's check out some stuff. Okay, so I just wanted to show you some cool things in my little relic room here. First of all, this is the map I was telling you about. That it's dated 1863, but after I researched, I think that date was wrong. Something about it, someone right. It had to do with when these troops were in this area. I think it was actually 1862. But you can see up here where that little house is, I think that's probably the mansion that our will belonged to in the barn, before they tore down the barn for townhouses when we first moved there in like 1973. But you can see the 14th New Hampshire. That was an encampment all over that area there at the time. And then you had 10th Mass Battery. A buddy of mine and his dad that were in detecting. I didn't even know they were, but they were massively into this when I was a teenager. I should have been out there with them. They found all kinds of good stuff in that spot right there where 10th Mass is. Then over, you can see that Cavalry spot and Signal Corps and 39th Mass up there. All that area is where the high school now stands and around it. So there was all kinds of great stuff found over there over the years. My buddy who did the detecting with his dad that I was telling you about, that found all the good stuff in that 10th Mass area. Over here in this field where it doesn't show anything, across the street from high school, he found like a little Civil War shooting range one time and probably dug a couple hundred bullets out of a little rise in a hill there over there where they were shooting and stuff. That a lot of these buildings are still here. Some aren't, from fire that happened. I can't remember. I think that happened in the mid or early 1900s. And so yeah, that's a pretty cool snapshot of our town at that time. And as you can see, I got some, just souvenirs and stuff for Civil War related, and little, always collected cannons when we went to battlefields and stuff when I was young. Man, I got a little bit of collection of things here and there. So actually, those little bullets right there were just eyeball finds when we were walking around battlefields when I was a kid. Another funny story with that, I was probably, 4 years old. We were out in the woods. My mom's best friend sat on a Civil War council. So her whole life was everything about the Civil War. And I think she was in the woods with us, and it was me and my mom and probably my sisters. So we're out there just eyeballing and stuff, not digging or anything, just eyeballing around. I think that was probably Gettysburg, maybe Antietam. But a park ranger walked up on us and he said, "Hey folks, what you guys doing?" Kids being honest kids, I piped up and said, "Looking for Civil War bullets." He's like, "You are? Well, you guys aren't, you're not supposed to be doing that." And he was cool though. He just kind of moved us along, but it's funny. I just piped up. These are some of my favorite finds. I've only found a couple plates because I just haven't been out there a whole lot over the years. When I first got into it, that's all I did, morning, day, and night. If there was daylight out there, I was out there digging. This nice officer's plate here was the very first plate I found, and it was crazy because it was actually in someone else's pre-dug hole that almost looked like they took a post hole digger to it. But it was it was an area where there was known troops in the area, and I had already found some good stuff. And it was like late in the day, and the sun was setting, and I was kind of heading back to my vehicle. And it was slated to be a new housing development, so there was a lot of holes dug and stuff, and people just didn't fill in their holes. So I came across what looked like a post hole digger hole, ran my coal over it, loud signal, couldn't believe it. I'm like, what the heck? Someone throw a tin can back in there? And I felt down the hole. Like I said, it was starting to get dark. I could barely see the bottom of the hole. Felt down there, it was still packed dirt. And I'm like, why? Who leaves a signal like that in the hole? Especially like this, always recheck your holes, people, because I think they found the keeper to this plate beforehand and then didn't re-sweep. So I put my shovel down behind where it was dug and popped up that bottom dirt and saw this edge of that plate coming up, and it was upside down. It was, reversed upside down. Didn't see the eagle yet, but as soon as it popped out and I saw this, that little part here and here, I was like, my heart just stopped because that was my very first one. I was like, oh my gosh, that can't be what I think it is. And this is about, probably only wasn't even a month when I first started detecting and got a good detector. So I popped that over, saw that eagle, and my gosh, there's nothing, if you don't detect and you're thinking about it, there's nothing like it when you first pull that first cool artifact like that out of the ground. I was on cloud 9 for like days with this plate. So cool. This one came from which house was that? Was that house torn down yet? I found this in a foundation of a house that I'd previously explored. That house kind of had a weird, I think, paranormal event happen in there too. Tell you about that sometime, because I also grew up in a haunted house and I could tell you 3 hours of stuff that happened. But after it was torn down, I think I was poking around the foundation stuff, that popped out of there, which is really cool. That one popped out of another farmhouse foundation just down the road. That one came out, that was right beside a Dollar General where there used to be a camp. And I found that in a musket plate, musket heel plate, the heck you call them, not heel plate, the rear of the stock, that thing. Found that, and so that was pretty awesome. This, I just cleaned all these. I'm going to display all these with that plate soon. That's my only federal breastplate. But this is a cool story. Now, the reason I found these, so this is right near my house where I found this, and got permission. It's like 82 acres out there, and there was one other detectorist that had permission there. So, I figured all the good stuff was maybe gone, but it was 82 acres. I mean, one detectorist is nothing with 82 acres, but really wasn't finding much of anything. I found a large cent, 1795, and some colonial stuff on top of this hill that's on the property, and it's kind of a couple hundred yards back from where one of the main creeks that's been there forever is, but I really wasn't finding much. So I started, I was finding a lot of cam slaw and cam parts and everything, and so when I got the signal for that breastplate, I thought it was another can, and when I popped it up, and in the meantime, I'd been finding a lot of the shot like this. This is canister shot from a cannon. So I'd been finding some of that first, and then I got the good signal in the middle of it. And I'm like, oh, great, another tin can. And I popped that up and saw the lead backing of it. And I knew exactly what that was. I was like, oh my gosh, finally. So, but what's crazy, I don't know if you can see it in this, there is a little dimple in there that has some iron oxide around it that looks like, something iron may have hit it. All that shot, I think there's 19 pieces of it. I think I got it all. All that was in a 30-foot area completely surrounding that plate, which I'm sure has a great story. Now, what I like to think of in my head is that I know for a fact that Lee's army after Antietam was in the creek right near where I was. Now, anytime, well, I say in the creek, I mean, he made his men wash, because after Antietam, they were just so disheveled and everything, and he basically made them take a bath. But anytime you had these camp areas, I don't know how many days he spent there, maybe, a couple. But anytime you have these camp areas, you want to have overwatch, to protect the guys when they're camping and everything. But that huge hill where I found the 1795 cent was a perfect place for overwatch. I can just imagine, one of the little Union spy guys creeping around down there trying to feel out where Lee's army was, and these guys on top of the hill, saw him like sneaking around, and they're like, hey, watch this. Stuck in a thing of a canister shot there, probably timed, and just exploded it right over him. Could have killed him. Maybe the plate saved him, but it looks like that canister shot was shot right over a Union soldier wearing that plate. And that's all, like, aside from one 3-ringer in that field, that's the only thing I found Civil War wise in that field, which is a pretty crazy story. I'm going to display all those with that, and hopefully it'll be something really nice. Now, here's some other things. That flag has a crazy story, but I'm not going to go into that right now. We'll save that for a later episode, maybe after I find out more. I'm trying to get more of the provenance history for this flag, but it's pretty crazy. When I tell you about it, you'll be blown away. Some other cool finds from other locations around me. That field there has been hunted forever, and I still pulled out 100 or so bullets out of there. That was a pretty awesome spot. There was all kinds of coins and whatnot there. I found a little 1800s colonial coin spill, and then a 1794 large cent, pretty close to those two, and lots of buttons in that place. Just all kinds of great stuff. It was in the same field as what they call a Indian fort, and there was several of these in a line of sight. I think they called them like 12-mile forts or mile forts or something. I think they were like in line of sight. They were like a mile apart. Pretty cool building. It's like basically like a little barn, but it had little slit windows where you could put your musket through and swivel side to side with but only having an opening that was very small that Indians would have a very hard time getting arrows through. But it was a restored one, the only restored one in the area where I was, and that field was just incredible. There was an old home site there. The owner told me that he bulldozed the foundation years ago, backfilled it with dirt, but which stinks because I'm sure there's tons more that's under the ground there. You'll have to excuse my messy relic room. It's storage as well for other things. I got my overflow of guitars in here. Yeah, I'm a metalhead. I like to play me some metal. This was a permission I had years ago. It's on the property of one of our local quarries, and we have tons of quarries. A lot of cool stuff came out of that farm as well. Interestingly, a Washington, D.C. police button. I think I dated that to like the early 1900s. That was a surprise find. That was really wild. And what we got over here? This stuff was when they were tearing up Town Square and putting new stones in, like cobblestone stuff. So they were down to original soil and whatnot. So dug some interesting things in the soil that had been buried under the street for at least 100 years. And, well, the existing street. So that was pretty cool. These are pretty cool finds over in Shepherdstown, where the retreat from Antietam was, and I found a whole bunch of cool stuff. This isn't even the display where I found most of the stuff. This was around the corner in some woods, but there was some good stuff there. Found a few pieces of shrapnel in there, and a Maine button and a Virginia button. So I think I got it. Can I see it in there? Yeah, there's a trifecta of dimes in there. Let me see if I can get you in there. I think there was a seated, a Mercury, and a Barber in there that I found in there, which was pretty cool. Found a crazy little, I don't know, I guess it's a furniture accoutrement, that little King Tut looking thing. It's pretty bizarre. Neat variety of stuff in those woods, though. So this is the house where I found the second belt plate that when the house had been torn down. I think I found all this stuff before and after the house was destroyed, but got some cool stuff in there. 1893 Indian head, 1905 Barber dime, some cool buttons, a couple Civil War bullets, some pretty neat stuff. So these are some cool finds from a cavalry camp that I found in Virginia. It's a pretty cool little spot because I had a bunch of different things in there. I had some little pieces from those shoulder scales. There's little fasteners, those little segmented, I think they're called shoulder scales. The epaulets. I think they're maybe epaulets. I haven't used some of these terms in years. I have to look that up again. So were these little pieces there, little sword keeper parts, some little saddle parts, some spincers, some flattened lead. But also, check this out. Well, these I found all in one hole. All these sharps. These spincers, those all came out of one hole. One big hole that I just kept digging and digging and kept finding. So it's definitely a cartridge box of some sort or spill of some sort. I didn't find a plate there, but I did find lots of other good stuff right in that area, including, let's see if I can get over here. Let me move this junk if I can. I'm not going to dig that whole thing out, but I found those awesome buttons in there. It was definitely a Yankee camp. See a little New York one. Those are Connecticut's and general service there. But look at that gorgeous North Carolina. I'll throw a better picture of that up on the screen. But it's definitely a Union camp. So I was just wondering, what is that gorgeous Southern button doing in this camp? I don't know if someone took his coat or they had a prisoner or what, but that was pretty cool. Let me talk about something just for a second, completely unrelated, just since a lot of people will see this and maybe help me out. See this guitar here in the center? This is made by Westone. It's a Westone Pantera X350. Now, several of my guitars are from where this was made, the Matsumoku factory in Japan, that I believe was around from 51 to like 87. This particular model, there was only 48 made of these. I happen to have 2 of them. I've been lucky enough to find 2 of them for sale and acquire them. So I have 2 of the 48. I'm really looking for this guitar, I'll put up on the screen, which is an X390. I have an X300, which looks just like this guitar, but it's a bolt-on neck. The X390, there was only 96 of those made, and I've been trying to get one for years. When I've seen them online, I didn't have the money at the time, so they got away from me. But I figured I'd pick up 2 of these in hopes that maybe I'd be able to trade for someone with an X390 that wants one of these guitars, or maybe someone out there has 2 X390s and they're trying to do the exact same thing. I would love to trade one of these for an X390. If you know anyone who has one, or any of you watching has one that wants to trade for that guitar, let me know. Okay, so after Gettysburg, Lee's troops were retreating, and they were trying to get down past Potomac River, but it was too high for them to ford. But they had a line of troops, both sides, basically maybe a mile apart, but they had a line that was from like Hagerstown all the way, it's probably like, I don't know, several miles long. I forget how long, but you can see in the Civil War map book just where the lines were and everything. So I went down trying to find some stuff in the lines in an area where they were starting to do a housing development. And as soon as I drove out there, I saw 2 other guys detecting out there. Then I found some good stuff in that field. Found a nice large cent there. What's coolest thing I found out of that was, check that out. You know what that is? Bet you do now. If you know bullets at all, that's an exploding Gardner. I read that both sides use these, so that's why it makes sense that it was in the Union lines, because you can see by all these 3-ringers. But that was the Union lines I was hunting. Very controversial bullet. I don't think that was really used that much. I guess they found it too medieval or something to be exploding when it was fired towards troops. I don't know why, when so many other things were so devastating, with canister shot and rounds and exploding stuff like that, and shrapnel going all over the place. You know, what's one more thing that destroyed troops in a gruesome manner? I don't know. It was but I read it was kind of controversial. Found some good drops in there. Yeah, these are all drops. Yeah, not single fired. Here's a crazy chewed up musket ball. Animals chewing on that. People like to say those were used for pain during amputations and stuff. That's just a fallacy. And as far as we know, it did not happen, because, I mean, those guys could just like swallow down their throat. Better to give them a big chunk of leather to bite on. So these are my finds from Poolesville, where I grew up. Some of my best ones in there, some Civil War bullets, and that's a Connecticut copper, that coin in there. Found some rings. That wedding ring, as soon as I found that and brought it inside when my dad was still alive, he was like, I know where that came from. And I was like, oh? He said, years ago, before the fence was up in the backyard, a guy came through here with his dog and just like going between our properties, and I saw him, and he asked me if I had, oh no, he had, I guess he had lost his dog at the time. He asked me if I had seen a dog, and I told him I hadn't. And but then he came back later on asking if we had seen a wedding ring he had lost while looking for his dog. And I guess that was like 25 years before I found that ring. That one right in there. Nice little wedding ring. So I have no idea who he was. That's the copper ring that I found by the well, and that's a Boy Scout ring. Connecticut copper was pretty amazing find too. That was my first really old coin I found, and that was when I first started detecting the yard. So I'd just gotten into metal detecting, and I thought it was like a modern quarter because it was only like a couple inches right beside our shed in some ivy. So when that thing popped out, I was like, oh my gosh, this is something old. What is this? And started cleaning it and looked it up, saw what it was, and I was like, holy crap, this is in the yard. So it's pretty wild. And I'm not going to go over everything in here, but I just wanted to show you that I have been doing some detecting over the years, and there's stuff all piled up back there and whatnot. And oh, this is a cool little area I found. Let me show you. These are in the woods right in the back of my house. Not all of that is Civil War, but there is a good bit. It's pretty wild how I found that, because I was just kind of snooping around in the woods and stuff with my detector, and I saw this embankment on the other side of the creek, and I'm just kind of looking at the lay of the land, and I just thought to myself, you know, that looks like a really good backstop to just shoot some rounds. And I just started detecting over there, and sure enough, it just bled all over the place in that little hill. And so there was, you know, Civil War and more modern lead, but that was a cool little discovery. So anyway, that's my little relic room. You can see I got a bunch of car stuff in here too, and I need a bigger property. Need to get all this just dedicated to relics. So hopefully we'll find some cool stuff, and we'll get out there tomorrow and start recording this stuff. Thanks for watching. Take care. Charlie welcomes you to the channel. So does Sammy, and Marvin, and Buzz, and Gracie, and George, and Sophie, and Mr. Fred. I forgot, I wanted to tell you one more thing. I also have a classic car channel called Badass Classics. So if any of you guys are also, or gals, are car guys, gals as well, and you're interested in that kind of content, I have, I think, almost 100 videos over there now. So check that one out too. Badass Classics. If you like it, give me a like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. All right, let's get to it.